Welcome to the Airlift Workshop, where you get expertise from the air suspension specialists, keeping you on the road and in top condition. Today, we're installing part number 88396, a LoadLifter 5000 Ultimate Air Spring Kit on a 2013 Ford F-250 diesel. Installation will take about 3 hours using common mechanics tools, and the process will be identical for part number 57396. Kit availability and fitment details for all supported vehicles are available at airliftcompany.com. Adjustable air springs can reduce the dangerous side effects of towing and hauling by returning the vehicle to its factory ride height and properly distributing weight to all four wheels, delivering up to 5,000 pounds of load leveling capacity and featuring an exclusive internal jounce bumper. This no-drill kit is a no-brainer when you want to tow and haul with safety and comfort. This overview doesn't replace your installation manual, which has special notes for gas models and non-standard fifth-wheel hitch installs. So grab yours out of the box or get a digital copy at airliftcompany.com and let's get started. Although we're using a lift here, you can easily use a floor jack to raise the vehicle. Once lifted, support the frame with safety stands. Then lower the axle or raise the body of the vehicle, making room for the air spring assembly. Remove the jounce bumpers from the vehicle. Wire brush the stud and use penetrating oil to aid in removing the jounce bumper. The usual socket size for this nut is 15 millimeters. To install the driver's side brace, locate the appropriate hardware. Aligned to the frame holes, place the brace on the frame rail and loosely attach the hardware. Be sure not to pinch any wiring or lines. Similarly, locate the hardware for the passenger's side brace and loosely attach it to the frame rail. Now let's assemble the air springs. Set a roll plate on both ends of the air spring with the rounded edge of each faced toward the air spring. Insert the elbow fitting on the top of the air spring. Tighten with your finger, then carefully make 1.5 turns with a wrench. For lower bracket assembly, insert a carriage bolt through the square hole in the lower bracket cup and loosely cap the bolt with a washer and nut, allowing the cup to swivel. Then insert a carriage bolt into the square hole designated for either the driver's or passenger's side, respectively. The lower bracket has 2 sets of bellow mounting holes, one for the driver's side, the other for the passenger's. Use the corresponding holes to attach the correct bellow to its bracket. Once attached, the bellows fitting will be opposite this lower bracket slot. Now, in the upper brackets, insert the appropriate carriage bolts. Attach the driver's and passenger's side brackets to their respective assemblies. Set spacers over both assemblies' long bolts, with the wide side facing out. Set the driver's assembly onto the jounce bumper strike plate. Make sure the long bolt goes between the brake line and the axle. Raise the axle just enough to insert the upper bracket bolt through the existing jounce bumper hole, while lining up the other 2 bolts with the upper brace. Set the passenger's assembly onto the jounce bumper strike plate, positioned like the left side, but make sure this long bolt goes outside the brake line. On both sides, make sure the spacer is parallel to the frame and upper bracket. Then raise the axle or lower the frame until the spacers touch the frame. Install the lock nuts on both bolts that went through the jounce bumper holes. Cap the bolts securing brackets to braces with washers and nuts torqued to 15 pound-feet. Tighten both braces to the frame. Don't forget to reattach the wiring harness to the frame rail. To attach the lower brackets, push them up against the stock U-bolts so the bracket legs are locked into position around the bolts. Make sure the cup on the lower bracket is nested to the jounce bumper strike plate on both sides. Position the provided U-bolt around the leaf spring assembly and insert into the lower bracket hole closest to the spring stack. Cap these with washers and nuts. The lower bracket legs must be locked to both sides of the stock U-bolts, with the bracket body up against the U-bolt as well. Insert the remaining carriage bolts through the remaining square holes in the lower bracket. Set the clamp bar over the carriage bolts and cap with washers and nuts. Repeat for the opposite side. Tighten the clamp bar hardware evenly until it touches the axle. Torque to 16 pound-feet, but do not pinch the hard brake line. You can trim the carriage bolts if needed. Now torque the leaf spring U-bolt to 10 pound-feet. It is okay if the upper and lower brackets are not parallel. Raise the axle all the way and remove the jack stands or equivalent used during installation. Tighten the lower swivel cup hardware with an open-end wrench. Finish installation of the air springs by tying together the soft and hard brake lines that are close to the lower bellows roll plate on the driver's side. Before routing air line to the air springs, note the available length and pick a convenient inflation valve location where you can drill two 5/16" holes. We'll use the bumper here, but other location options include the license plate recess, wheel well flanges, and under the gas cap access door. Place a nut and star washer on the inflation valve and push the valve through the hole. Use a rubber washer, flat washer, and a nut to secure it in place. Then twist on the valve cap. Now route the longest airline path first, leaving some slack and avoiding sharp bends, edges, and heat sources. Secure it along the frame using the provided zip ties. Once routed, measure an extra 12 inches and cut the airline. When cutting airline, remember to never cut from the side. You leave a jagged edge and ruin the hose. Instead, use a hose cutter or sharp razor blade to get a crisp, clean cut. Following the same guidelines, route, secure, and cut the other airline. On the passenger's side, slip the hose protector over the end of the airline. Now, insert both lines into their bellows push-to-connect fitting and push the hose protector up against it. Install the heat shield where the exhaust is closest to the air spring. Bend the tabs to provide a ½ inch of airspace and clamp them to the exhaust. Bend the heat shield body for maximum clearance to the air spring. To make sure your install is airtight, inflate the system to 30 psi and spray a soapy solution on all connections and valves while checking for exiting air bubbles.